The time to build is upon us.
With great power comes great responsibility.
You know the greatest danger facing us is ourselves. An irrational fear of the unknown.
Not because they are easy, but because they are hard.
This is the Superhuman Academy podcast.
What's up, Kurtis?
What's up, my friend? How are you?
Today, I'm feeling a little bit tired right now, which I want to change that. I'm guessing you can probably help me change that, so maybe we should start there.
Yeah, man, we'll bring the energy up. I remember last time we spoke, I showed you that pump up. I call it the espresso breathing technique. So you don't have to.
Yeah, it made me laugh. Yeah. So, do you have any tips for how I could boost my energy right now?
Yeah, man. The best way is doing a breathwork technique where you breathe in through the nose, out through the nose, and you flood the brain with oxygen. So, like,
Okay.
let's just say you're driving, you're getting tired, you're like, oh crap, I need to wake up. So I call it the espresso breathwork technique. And Tony
Oh,
Robbins.
we're gonna do this again. All right.
Yeah, but it's very awkward. So I don't know if you're down to actually do it. But if you want to play all in, we can do it, and you'll see the difference. It's totally up to you.
Well, now you've put it out there, so we have to.
Okay. So ready? I'll do the demonstration. So in through the nose, out through the nose. So it's really weird. So if you have a stuffy nose, like boogers come flying out. So disregard that. So the arms go straight up like this in the air, both arms in the air, breathing in, and then you're forcibly exhaling through the nose while you're bringing your arms down to your side like this. And if you do 30 of those, you'll be back.
30? I'm not gonna do 30.
Do 10.
10? Oh,
10.
man.
But you gotta really do it. Like really breathe in and really breathe out and feel it in your brain.
All right. Give me a second here. I want to try to not laugh because that's going to disrupt it. So I want to take
I'll
it
laugh
seriously
for you.
here.
Okay.
Okay. Here we go.
Breathe out. You gotta breathe out. In, out, in, out, in, out, in, out. I couldn't hear you breathing. Were you exhaling too?
Oh yeah, I was breathing hard, dude.
Good job.
I think my mic just cut it out.
Oh, okay, that's what it was.
It's that breathing sounds. Yeah. I've led some meditations, and I always have to turn off the filtering because I want people to be able to hear like the exhales and things like that. And sometimes you just cut it out, and people just think I'm silent. And like,
Yeah,
it doesn't work very well.
I saw you doing it, but yeah, you look a couple shades brighter right now. So
Yeah, it definitely boosts me a little bit. I think 30 would. Yeah, that would probably be like an espresso shot if I did 30 of those. You mentioned while driving, so how necessary is the arms part? Because I don't think I would do that if I was driving.
No, that is like, let's put out that caveat disclaimer right now. We do not do the arms through the sunroof. No, I just remember one time I was so tired I couldn't even keep my eyes open. I had a long drive and sticking my head out the window, doing all these things, and I did 30 of the breaths without the arms, and it got me home.
It's still pretty good, yeah. I really struggle with drowsiness while driving. Have for a long time, like pretty bad. And I've tried different breathing strategies before. I haven't done it exactly like that, but I would do like I'd breathe in really hard through the nose and then try to take in even more breath at the top. And I found that to be somewhat effective. Is that a technique? I don't know. I just started doing it.
There's a bunch of techniques, but mostly if you're driving and you want to get focused or energy, most of those won't work because those techniques get you into parasympathetic, which is your parasympathetic nervous system.
Sure, yeah.
Rest and digest, which is making you more calm. We want to activate the sympathetic nervous system, kind of get you more alert. So it just depends on what technique you use.
Yeah, I was just trying to blast my lungs and just breathing in through my nose a whole bunch, and then I'd do like a quick out breath through my mouth and then blast in through the nose again. And I noticed that was semi-effective, but I'll try this next time if I get dry.
Yeah,
without the arms.
The mouth is the way that's connected to the sympathetic nervous system. But if you're doing that while driving, you can get dizzy. It can get dangerous.
Oh, okay. So you said the mouth is connected to the sympathetic nervous system?
Yeah, correct. So the nose, if you breathe in through the nose, out through the nose, you're more likely and a lot easier to go into parasympathetic, that rest and digest.
Huh.
And the mouth is connected to the sympathetic nervous system. So, like the deep diaphragmatic breath work that I teach, the Breathwork Detox, is done through the mouth, but it's mainly to clear out the sympathetic nervous system and clear the body of whatever it's been holding on to. And that could be accumulated stress, it could be suppressed
Mhm.
trauma, it could be all different types of things.
Huh. I intuitively would have flipped that. I would have thought in through the nose, sympathetic, mouth, more parasympathetic. You're saying it's the opposite.
Yeah, because 99.9% of the time, we should be breathing through our nose.
Sure.
That's where we wanna be, and we shouldn't be breathing through our mouths, and we shouldn't even be breathing through our mouths when we sleep. That's why you see this new craze of mouth tape,
Yeah, the
right?
taping and stuff, yeah.
Yeah, because if you breathe through your mouth while you're sleeping and for prolonged periods of time, like years, it actually can deform your face. And you can
Mhm.
studies that they did by mouth breathers and, their face just looks a lot different than nose breathers. So,
Yeah.
yeah, there's a clear distinction.
That's so strange. I've also read that, like, there's some sort of link, maybe you know about this. There's some sort of link between, like, breathing through the right nostril versus the left nostril, left being, I think, more parasympathetic, right being more sympathetic. Have you is that sound familiar to you? Ring any bells or totally
Yeah,
new?
it's kinda like
Okay,
more Vedic knowledge. It's called the nadi system. So, these
okay.
nadis are energetic pathways and channels that we have in our body, like, very similar to, blood. We all know we have blood, and how does that blood get distributed throughout our body? Well, through veins and arteries. And I think, even science, spirituality, everyone agrees that we're energy. We're made up of more energy than matter. But how does that energy get distributed throughout the body? And that what people don't know, and that's through the nadis, which is 72,000 channels, energetic highways that run through our body. And the left nostril is connected to the Ida channel, which is they call it the moon channel. It's your feminine side. It's kind of like the flow. And then the right one is connected to your Pingala, which is your fiery channel, your sun, which is more masculine and yang. So you have those two main channels, female, male. And then you have your Shushumna, which is the big one that runs from the bottom all the way to the top. And those are the three main ones. And then you have all the other ones. And what's interesting is that there's one place in the body where they all intersect, and that is your stomach, your gut area, which is your source for all your vitality. And that's why people have a lot of fatigue and, vitality issues. It's because they have gut issues. And also 80% of our immune system is produced in our gut, and 80% of our serotonin is produced in our gut. So if you just look
Mhm.
at those facts right there, 80% of our health, our immune system, our happiness, our serotonin, right? And our vitality and energy is all in the gut. So that's why they
Mhm.
say the gut brain is so important, and the gut brain connection, because there is a connection between the brain and the belly. And if you have stomach GI issues, you'll have brain fog, you'll have vitality issues. So there's a lot of magic that happens in the gut.
It's funny you bring that up. I just had a guest on pretty recently who was talking about, we didn't go super deep into the gut health, but Um, there seems to be some synchronicity around that where I've had multiple people I've talked to in a short period of time just keep hitting the gut. I'm like, Is the universe sending me a signal that I need
I think
I need to
it
do a
could be.
GI map or something?"
I mean, it could be a good thing, because if you feel your vitality is kinda low, your energy is low, you feel drained, feel foggy, and if you clean out your gut, man, you turn into a new person. And
Mhm,
here's the thing, Colin, I say this from experience, because this is how I even got into breath work. I was fatigued, I was just feeling uncomfortable in my own skin, couldn't think correctly. For 5 years, I suffered. And I actually went to all the GI doctors. Like, I went and did a colonoscopy, an endoscopy. I swallowed pill cameras. They literally give you cameras you swallow that goes down and see what's going on, and all of them checked out. And for 5 years, I went to the best doctors from LA to New York, spent tens of thousands in just co-payments. I actually had insurance. And it wasn't until, and I even was doing some alternative medicine, quote unquote. We can talk about that term later, but plant medicines, and I did ayahuasca, and I had a Chinese Taoist tummy massager called CNT. And she's actually the one that put me onto this ancient breathing technique. And I did a deep diaphragmatic session of this technique, and it eradicated my stomach condition in one session. And my health just exploded. And I went from just one person to the next person in just a matter of, a couple days. My health started to come back. And I tried to wrap my head around, because I'm actually a very skeptical person. I'm very analytical. I'm very logical. Like, I need to see it to believe it. And I was sitting there and I'm like, man, 5 years, I did this, I did that, this doctor, and I couldn't get better. And I did this one stupid little silly breathing technique. And I feel like $1,000,000 right now. And like my stomach pain's gone, it's not coming back. And then I realized, I was like, wow, you know what? Those doctors couldn't tell me what was wrong with me, because my issue wasn't physical. It was actually energetic, and it was emotional. And we hold a lot of energy and emotions in our belly, in our hips area, especially the abdomen. And I was carrying just accumulated stress and suppressed trauma for years. And this technique allowed me to release it. And I did a big ugly cry, like it was intense. And I was able to let go of whatever I was holding on to. And everything changed from that moment. And that's the whole reason why I teach breathwork, was because of that personal experience, because I know how much things I did to fix my health and nothing worked.
Okay, we're gonna be doing that breathing in a second, but my cat wants to get out of my office, so I'm gonna let him out. When I come back, we're jumping into that.
All right, I'll hold space while you do that.
Oh, if anyone ever has any questions about if these conversations are scripted or not, there's your proof.
There's your proof.
I think that's the second podcast episode my cat has interrupted. Like, dude, just what are you doing? Just wait. All right, so we gotta try out this breath that cured your belly issues, and if it makes me ugly cry, then so be it. Let's go for it.
Oh gosh. Okay. Well, first of all, we would not be able to accomplish what this is, but I can walk you through the process of what it looks like. Um, so first of all, it would take about minimum 15 minutes for me to really set the context of how powerful this technique is, and all the things to expect while you're going through. Because I like to remove all the conscious and subconscious triggers that would prevent somebody from going full in. And that takes about 15 minutes to set that context.
How long does the actual technique take?
Yeah, the technique is very simple, and that is done. It's a 3-part breath. So 2 breaths in, 1 breath out. And the first breath goes deep down into the belly as far as you can go, and then you fill up your chest. So think about like 80% in the belly, 20% in the chest. Now you're completely filled. Those are your 2 steps. And the third step is just to release and let go. And then as soon as you release and let go, you go right back into the next breath. But if you filled up your belly and your chest 100%, you really just have to release. It's like a bow and arrow, right? When you pull that arrow back, you don't have to push the arrow out. You just got to let it go after you pulled it back. So it starts to become like this automatic breathing movement. And that will last for anywhere, like my deep sessions are about 28 minutes long. And that's considered a deep session. And you're just constantly doing a circular loop of this breathing. And then you're going through like all these different trance states and, transient hypofrontality. And like, there's so many things that's happening in the brain and the body. Like the body's microdosing dimethyltryptamine. And it's like, how can all this stuff happen from breathing? But that's the only technique that allows for all those things to happen. That's why so many, miracles and mysterious things happen with this technique. And
okay,
like why
so it's
it's blowing up.
through the nose, out through the mouth? Is that right?
In through the mouth, out through the mouth.
Oh, all mouth. Okay.
Yeah.
In
So
through the mouth,
I'll
all
show
the way
you. I'll
in.
show you right now.
Yeah.
So I'll go sideways. It might be easier to see.
Yeah,
So
let's see it.
I'm sideways. So I'm going to put a hand up. So this is my belly button right here. So I put my hand over my belly button. I put a hand over my chest. These are the 2 areas I'm breathing into. So the first breath is going to go deep into the belly. Now my mouth's going to be open wider than what feels comfortable. So if I take my 2 knuckles and I put my 2 knuckles in my mouth and I remove them, that's about how wide you want your mouth to be. So first breath goes in here. I'm going to do it slow motion. Second breath goes up here, completely full. Now I just let go and go right back in. Belly, chest, let it go. And I just
It's
did
like a dance move.
4 or 5 of those, and I can feel my whole body tingling. I felt my whole nervous system just shift. I just did 5 of those. So if you did 10 of those, it's going to be a much different feeling than what you just did with the espresso breath work.
Yeah, I wanna do that. As I was watching you do that, I was like, "Can I even do that?"
Yeah, I meant,
Like
well, it's a good question because some people can't breathe into their bellies, and they're like, "Well, I'm trying to do it, and am I doing it right or doing it wrong?" I'm like, "You can't."
the belly breath, I think makes sense to me, but how much, like there was so much movement in your chest when you're breathing into the top of that breath. I'm just trying to I'm, like, trying to feel that right now, like, okay, I think I kinda got that a little bit.
Yeah, well, most people, their bellies don't move. So, like, if you see right here, right? See my belly moves out, right? And I know I'm sitting
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
on the top, right? So, most people, their bellies don't move at all.
It's
And
because 'cause they're sucking them in all the time, trying to look slim.
yeah, exactly. I do this with athletes with six packs, and you'd think they can breathe the best, but their bellies don't move at all, and their diaphragms are so stuck and tight, and that could be, either from weight training or a lot of from traumas. They'll get tense, and people can't breathe down into the belly.
Yeah, well, I don't have the six pack, so you don't have to worry about that with me. It'll just
But the chest, like everyone's breathing up in the chest. They're breathing shallow. They're breathing up here in the clavicles and up here. So it's actually called paradoxical breathing. So if I'm
Mhm.
full of people, I'll say everyone take their deepest breath on the count of 3, and everyone takes a deep breath, and everyone's chest moves, no one's bellies moves. And I
Mhm.
say, well, everyone just did paradoxical breathing because if you watch like a dog or a baby breathe, when a baby takes a breath in, the belly moves.
Right,
But
yeah.
we don't just because something happens in our life and it's called life. Life be lifing. And, all these things happen and, our diaphragms get stressed and they get, tense and it's really hard to breathe down there.
Yeah, well, thankfully, I've practiced that a lot, like, I've practiced breathing into my belly. I don't have any problem with that. I do that throughout the day, like, because 'cause I'm, on calls and stuff, I'm thinking about every once in a while, like, drop it into the belly, so, like, that I think I can do. Just the amount that your chest moved when you did that top breath, I was like, "That" I think I think I can access that. I just haven't thought about that much because 'cause I've intentionally avoided breathing into my chest so much. I don't I
Yeah.
don't naturally, like, try to inflate that space very much. Um, okay, so in through the mouth, both of those spaces, just let it go. And you're saying after 10 of those, I'd feel some kinda way?
Yeah. I mean, obviously the longer sessions, but if you just did 10 of those, you'd absolutely feel it. You
Do you
feel your
wanna guide me
body, your
through 10
mind.
of those?
Yeah. Okay. So
Okay, I'll
do
give it a
that right
shot.
now.
I'll do my best,
Alright.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So just put a hand on the belly and chest. This is a gentle reminder that these are the 2 areas you're gonna be breathing into. And, you don't have to worry about the speed. Once you kinda get, to know what you're doing, then you can go fast and full, or you can breathe low and slow. So if you wanna feel the effects just in 10, just breathe your deepest, best breath through your mouth and shotgun the air deep into your belly, deep into your diaphragm, and then as soon as that's filled, then top off the chest until you're 100% filled, and then just release and let go. And at the end of the exhale, you go right back into the next breath into the belly chest. So, okay, ready?
Yep.
Okay, mouth open wider than what feels comfortable. Yep. Not so wide, you can close it a little bit. There you go.
Hey,
Hungry,
yes.
hungry hippo.
I was just following instructions.
Yeah, I didn't want you to break your jaw.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay, ready? Perfect, that's perfect. Okay, first breath. Now I want your first breath to push all the stale air out of your belly, right? And then go into the first breath. Okay?
okay, and then are you gonna, like, talk me through each one?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay, okay, okay.
Ready? Push all the stale air out. Okay, now belly, chest, let go. Belly, chest, let it go. Belly, chest, let it go. Keep that up, okay? And when you hold, yep, just don't hold on to anything. And when you release that breath, think about releasing something else along with it. Belly, chest, let it go. Deep into the belly. Breathe deep down into the seat of your soul. Yep, good job. Belly, couple more. Chest, let it go. Yep, and then that exhale, just relax your body. Boom. There you go. That was the one right there. Let go. Perfect. Belly, chest, let it go. 2 more. You got it. 1. All right, let go.
Wow, that heated me up like crazy.
Yeah, you feel it, right?
Dang.
It's like
Yeah, I
all like
feel it.
so
It's
that Pingala.
tingling in my ankles, tingling in my hands.
Yeah, and that was from 10 breaths. And that happens because that Pingala is your fiery channel. It's all the heat in your body. And then the left side, that Ida, that is your cooling channel. So you'll feel hot, you'll feel cold. Some people sweat, some people get freezing. Like there's so many things that can happen. And you do that for a specific technique for a specific amount of time, with the proper guidance, this is what induces breakthroughs.
Dang, that's interesting. I did Wim Hof, like, breathing stuff. There's one, I think it was the interview he did with, like, Lewis Howes or something, School of Greatness. I listened to that at one point years ago, and that was one of the best examples I could find where he's, like, demonstrating it in a really compact way, and I could follow along. So I'd go to that section, I think that's what it was. I'd go to that section of that video, and I would just follow along with him talking through it, and, I'd get, like, some crazy heat out of that, and I got some different experiences, but I followed that, and I would take, like, cold showers. I did that for, 3 months at one stint, like, 2 months at another stint, but I think what you just led me through in 10 breaths, I got more heat and, like, sensation from that than I would typically get after doing, like, 3 whole sessions of 30 breaths followed by as long as I could breath hold back into I would go through it pretty intensely, and, I don't think I've ever generated that much heat that quickly. That was kind of
Yeah.
insane.
And heat is just energy, right? We're moving energy through our bodies, and energy gets stuck in certain parts of our bodies, and that could be cooling energy, it could be hot energy, and the breath is the one thing that's connected to all 72,000 energetic channels in the body. So when you start this technique, you start to clear and move that energy, and some of it comes to the surface, and it might be heat, it might be cooling, it might be, it's different for everybody, but yeah, it really moves energy. And I personally don't do the breath holds in this technique, only because I don't want the conscious mind involved. I want to flood the entire system with oxygen, and once the conscious mind starts to think like, oh, is this breath number 7 or number 8? And I want to get the conscious mind out because I want to make the bridge from the subconscious to the conscious, and that's when a lot of people have clarity, epiphanies, realizations, and I think that's important. And one of the reasons why I do this technique is because the information that comes through, it's quite profound.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I also noticed myself during those 10 breaths, I got some of that lightheadedness that I used to get sometimes when I would do the Wim Hof breathing, and one of the reasons I stopped doing it was because, when I would do it in the shower, and there were a couple of times where I almost just passed out in the shower.
Yeah,
I was
so
like, "I don't know, I don't wanna fall
you
down."
don't wanna do this driving, you don't wanna do this in the shower. I wouldn't even recommend doing it seated in a chair unless you're pregnant. Um, e Lying down on your back, a yoga mat, bed, or couch is the best way to do
Okay,
it. Yeah.
interesting. Alright, well, I've got a whole, like, mat room in my basement that I built out, so maybe sometime soon I'll go down there. Do you have any recommended music to play along with this?
Oh, yeah. I mean, that's like, part of my training because I certify people to teach this. There's a whole section I teach people how to create a magical playlist because the music that you use is really important, for the experience. And, it really just, you want the beginning to be more kind of upbeat music. And
Mhm.
as you kind of go into these deeper levels of trance, you kind of want to like have your transition song, and then you want to wind it down to emotional songs that's going to help like crack you open because that's where
Yeah.
the magic happens towards the end.
Do you have a Spotify playlist you can send me? I won't send it out if you don't want me to, I'll just steal it for myself.
I'll give you my secret stash.
Yes. There we go. Alright. Yeah, because I'll use it. I'll go down and do some crazy session by myself. See what happens. I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll give you a ticket to one of my events so you can at least go through the 15 minutes of the context, which is because without that, you won't go as deep, and that's guaranteed. Because there's things that you need to know that are really gonna allow you to surrender and go deep and just the things to expect. Like the heat, that's one thing, but there's a whole list of things that could happen, and as long as you know that these things, could happen, you're your mind won't kind of trick you out of having the experience. Or, you'd be like, oh my God, my hands are cramping. What the heck? I think I'm having a heart attack. Yep, I'm having a stroke. Yeah, your brain will tell you these things because it's not used to being flooded with oxygen and moving all that energy. So I need to disarm all those things and put you in that safe space before you can go as deep as you want.
Yeah. Do you not share those over podcasts, that like the secret sauce you keep for your live
No,
sessions?
because if I did it now, I'd half-ass it just because I'd be trying to hit bullet points, and it's like it's a proprietary process of
Okay.
of how I take people through this. Because
All right.
I started
Well,
off.
I'll do it by myself once without any of the preparedness. My brain will explode, and then I'll come to one of yours.
And I told you so. No, I'm joking.
Cool, man. Well, all right. So I've gotten. Let's see. What was the first one? All right. I've got the espresso shot one. Arms up, down, through the nose. Okay. And then what do you call this one?
So this is Breathwork Detox.
Breathwork Detox. Okay.
Yep.
Huh. All right. Do you have any other patterns that are like your go-to for? I want to talk for you, daily life.
Yeah.
Any specific patterns that are your go-tos?
Yeah. So for me, like when I do cold plunge, while I'm in the cold plunge, I'll do box breathing.
Okay, is it like
And
4 in, 4 hold, 4 out, 4 hold?
yep.
Like
So
that?
you're holding, everything's 4 seconds at the top of the breath. You're holding for 4 seconds, then you're breathing out for 4 seconds, and at the bottom of the breath, you're holding for 4 seconds, and then breathing back in 4 seconds. So every action, whether you're breathing in, out, or at the top of the bottom of the breath, you're holding, inhale, exhaling. It's all for 4 seconds, and they call that box breathing.
And do
And
you alternate nose, mouth for that, or do you just stick
so
with one or the other?
me personally, I go in through the nose and I go out through the mouth. And I go out through the mouth because for me, that's what feels good. But then also when you're in cold plunge, the body is in shock, right? It's like, it just wants to breathe in. So I really focus on the exhale. So I want to kind of get all that energy that's stuck in my chest, and I just breathe it out. And I actually do it forcefully because it gives me something actionable to do while I'm, in below freezing temperatures.
Interesting. Okay, so you got box breathing, and I've always associated box breathing with trying to get like into a more balanced state. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, for sure. I think, between box breathing and the 4-7-8 method, those two
Mhm.
are used by Navy SEALs. And to get them, calm and going into a certain, crazy situation, let's call it,
Yeah.
or to actually fall asleep. If they need,
Yeah, yeah.
let's just say 3 hours of sleep and they kind of all adrenaline pumped up, they'll do those two techniques to help put them right to bed.
Yeah, I've used 4-7-8 to go to sleep quite a bit. Um,
Yeah.
okay, so that's 4 different techniques you've shared. Any others that are go-tos that maybe are less well known?
You know, I'll just share one more. I never want to give people too many because they're like, wow, it's this one, is
All
that.
right.
And
Pause you right there. This is just you and me. Give me 2
okay.
minutes.
I'll give you the one that kind of changed my life. And the one, this is I learned probably 15 years ago, and a doctor taught me. I went to refill my prescription. I was on Ativan, and I was, it was like Murphy's Law for me. I had my house burned down. I lost my brother. I was having panic attacks. It was really bad, and I was on this medication. And the doctor told me, and I went for a refill, and it wasn't my normal doctor. It was a substitute, or whatever you call it. And she goes, I'm going to give you your prescription, but I want you to know you're going down a dark path. And I was like, now I'm a Star Wars guy. So I'm like, the dark path. I'm like, what does that mean? And then she's like, you're actually triggering more panic attacks by taking these pills. And she explained to me, she's like, but I'm going to show you a technique. It's a breathing technique. And next time you're having an anxiety attack, I want you to use this technique. She goes, it's very simple. She goes, pretend there's a straw in your mouth. Or she goes, pretend, put your lips like a fish, like you're going to do kissy fishes. And I was like, okay. And she goes, and I want you to breathe in and out through that straw, through the kissy lips. And I want you to breathe regular. Don't try to suck it in too hard. Don't try to forcibly push it out. Just breathe regular. And what that is going to do, it's going to restrict the perfect amount of oxygen you should be taking in, and CO2 you should be blowing out during a panic attack. So as long as you breathe in regular, deep in, deep out, and just let that let it naturally flow out the small hole that your mouth's kind of puckering up and making. And then I remember I actually had a panic attack. I was sleeping. It was like 3 a.m. and I wake up and like my heart's pounding out my chest. I grab my pills, put them in my hand, and only supposed to take 1 milligram of Ativan. I was taking 3 when I was having panic attacks. Put them in my hands, and like right before I went to put it in my mouth, I literally heard this lady's voice like, "You're going to the dark side." And I was like, oh my God. So I just like clinched them up in my hand and I just puckered my mouth and I just started doing this silly little technique. And it made me feel like I was going to die even more. But then like the second before I was going to quit, all of a sudden it was like I just like broke through and all my vitals, my heart was just like everything started to calm down. And I literally put my pills back in the jar and never had to take them again. And
How many breaths was that, do you think?
that's a great question. I would say it felt like eternity, but I would say realistically, it probably was only 3 breaths.
Like 3 breaths?
Yeah,
Can you demonstrate that one? And then I'll do it too. Just
Yeah.
for both.
It's
both
simple.
fish.
So my lips is like a little fresh, and you can actually I carried a straw. So if you take a straw, cut it in half. So now you get half of a straw, stick it in your pocket. And then boom, that's you put the straw in your mouth, that's the perfect amount. Or you can just pucker your lips if you don't have a straw and you just breathe regular just like this.
It's all through the mouth, right?
Yeah, all through the mouth.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I noticed myself, like, naturally trying to breathe through my nose at the same time, like, get extra air, but you wanna cut that off.
Yeah, just breathe
Yeah.
into the mouth. That was the one that she taught me, and I know that it worked. And that was a big one. That was like a game changer for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll practice that. I instinctively wanna, like, blow the air out instead of just breathing it out like normal. So huh.
Yeah, you can do variations, right? That's the specific one she taught me, but you can do in through the nose and then blow out through the mouth. I recommend at least blowing out through the mouth because that's how you're controlling the long exhale. Because
Yeah.
typically the longer exhale is what you really need. Because when people are taking panic attacks, they
Mhm.
take in too much oxygen, right? They're breathing in like that, and
Mhm.
really they need to control the CO2. And then just doing the lungs, that's what tells the heart to relax and to calm down.
Got it. Okay, just between you and me, do you have any other secret ones you don't typically share on podcasts?
I'll send it to you via email.
Alright, I'll take it. Anyway, I told you, I'm in this podcast thing for me, so that the audience, they can
It's
listen in if they want, but
It's actually called the secret breathing technique. It's called the bliss effect.
alright, I'll take it. Private channels. Yeah, send me your Spotify playlist and the secret breathing technique, and
I got
everyone's gonna be like, "Hey, send it to me," and I'll be like, "No, you gotta go to Curtis, pay him some money or something."
I gotta make notes of this now.
Yeah, invite him to your podcast, dang it. Then you can
Right.
get the goods. Oh, that's great. So, I've got another question for you. I, I've been breathing my whole life, believe it or not, but I don't feel like much of an expert in it, and I am conscious of my breath frequently throughout the day, but I often don't really know what to do with it.
Mm.
Um, so I don't even know what my question is. It's kind of just like I know some people who seem to be really conscious of their breath all the time. And I'm like, that just seems really hard to, like, how much mental energy you're using just to think about breathing. Um, so I don't know. Have you found that to be the case? Like, do you find you're thinking about it a lot, or have you just kind of adapted patterns and you do it subconsciously? Like, how's
Yeah.
that work for you?
I mean, first of all, if you're aware of your breath, you're already 10 steps ahead of the average person because no one's aware of their breath during the day or a very small amount. And that's the first step because that is awareness, being awareness of, am I breathing? Because I remember when I was holding my breath and I was holding my breath and actually clenching my left fist. And it took me years to realize that I was even doing that. And if I had breath awareness or just awareness, I would have figured it out sooner. And that's been my journey. So, even now as a breathwork coach, I'm not 24/7 conscious of my breathing. It's impossible. We have average, 45, 50,000 thoughts per day, and 80% of those thoughts are negative thoughts in nature, of course, according to science, and only 20% are positive. And then 98% of the thoughts we had today were the same exact thoughts we had the day before. So most of us are stuck on this hamster wheel, just recycling all these crappy emotions and, thoughts, and that lead to more emotions and thoughts. And, that's why people are, in these ruts that they are, and they're seeking that some sort of a breakthrough. So, just being aware of your breath from here to there. What I do is I kind of gamify it. So meaning, first of all, I make a commitment to myself that I'm going to keep. Don't make a commitment to yourself that you're not going to do. And if you could do, I think the first one I started to implement. Oh yeah, here's another technique for you. I'll give him this one because this is the first one that I was like, man, this is a game changer. And it's the easiest one, and it's the most underrated technique in the world. And that technique is called the sigh.
Okay.
So the body's natural. If you just look at the body, we have the most advanced biomechanical machines on the planet. It's super intelligent. You can cut my skin right here and it's going to self-heal. Like there's not too many things that can do that, right? So the body can do that. So when the body naturally feels it's building up too much stress, tension, or pain, it'll build up in the body, and then the body will do this on its own. It'll do a sigh of relief. It's literally a relief or release pressure valve, right? So that's how the body naturally releases pain and stress, from its field. So if you can do that consciously, right, and say, you know what, I'm going to do 3 sighs in a row, 3 times a day, which will only take you, under 10 seconds, 20 seconds for the entire day as a commitment. Like go to the gym for an hour, how about, 15 seconds of breathing. So you do a conscious breath. You could do it in through the nose, the mouth, or whatever. So I like to do in through the nose for this particular one. And then I exhale out through the mouth. You always have to exhale through the mouth because that is how the sigh works, right? Sigh through your nose, right? The body naturally releases it through this mouth, which is an energetic exodus. So let's just say I take a deep breath in consciously, completely get filled, and I do an obnoxious exhale. Do 3 in a row. Last one. Even more louder and more obnoxious. And just those 3 sighs right there will just put you in a more calm, relaxed manner. You do 3 of those sets 3 times. Do 1 for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. When you wake up, right in the middle of the day, and before you go to bed. And just that, you doing that for 2 weeks, you're going to notice a noticeable change in, how you react to certain things and just feeling more comfortable in your own body. And it's quite amazing how something so simple can have profound results.
Yeah, Kurtis, you deserve to know this. So, last time we talked, you shared this one with me briefly. I don't know if you remember that. But I think we talked it was probably a month and a half ago, something like that. So 3 weeks ago, my second son was stillborn. And that, it was the hardest 30 hours of my life, let's say, that experience. I'm sharing that with you because in the hardest moments of that experience, I actually recalled our conversation. I don't go back to my guest pre-interview conversations in my head very often. I went back to that because for whatever reason, that sigh just came into my mind. And I have a slightly modified version of it that my body just naturally started to do. I've come to call this the breath of acceptance because that's what it's been for me. And so I'll share it with you. And it's a sharp intake through the nose, followed by a little extra one at the top. followed by a really hard sigh. Just it's almost like animalistic, and it's just that hard out breath. And I found my body naturally doing that, like as I was processing the grief, the pain of that experience. And I've done that breath a lot the past 3 weeks. Like it's been a companion for me. So I wanted to share that one as a thank you for us having that conversation, because it brought me more awareness to that, and I think enabled me to access that more effectively. But also to anyone who might be listening, I usually don't talk to my audience, but I'll throw this to them. Like, if you are experiencing grief or resistance, you might give that a shot. It doesn't solve your problems, but what it does is can help you somatically accept what you're experiencing. And when I was doing it in the moments, like those outward breath, those sighs were, I mean, they were ragged, right?
Yeah.
But it was really powerful, and I used it every time I noticed. I kind of got that feeling when you're holding back tears in your neck, in your throat, whatever. Whenever I noticed that feeling in my chest, I
Yeah.
would hit a couple of those, and a lot of times I would release
Yeah.
that, allow tears to come when that needed to come, allow whatever to come out.
And that's the great
I found
awareness
that very powerful.
that you're talking about. First of all, the profound story, and thank you for sharing with me and of course whoever's listening, and recalling that conversation to bring it in real time, because that is the reason I do what I do. To give people these tools to go through whatever they're going through. When I was going through what I was going through, I didn't know I needed it, but that's what I needed. And in that moment, that's what you needed. And this is like most beautiful thing, because the breath is the most powerful organic technology that we all possess, that helps us, release, let go, and process emotions, and, feeling the stuck energy in your chest. Like, if we keep that stuff there, God knows what that stuff manifests into. And you'll be shocked of what it does manifest into, because it brings dis-ease to the body when the body just holds on to stuff, and we're not aware that we need to let go because we don't have the proper tools to do so. So, yeah, man, that's just a great example of how and when to use this stuff.
Yeah, and I could feel it. I could feel like if I don't find a way to release what I'm holding right now, it will kill me. Like, it'll just keep doing damage to my
Yeah.
body, to my mind. And yeah, that was one of the key things that allowed me to release that.
Yeah.
Um, and I still, like, even right now, I'm getting a little bit activated. I'm feeling a little bit of stuff coming up. So, like, like
Yeah, how's it good?
immediately you feel,
Yeah, you
I
let it
feel it,
go. Yeah.
super helpful.
Yeah. Yeah, that was awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. All right. Well, on that note, what would you like to do with the next 19 minutes? We've got some extra time.
Mm, yeah. Well, I normally would say, I love to give your guests as much value as possible, but I also remember the conversations where you're like, this is my podcast. This isn't their podcast.
It's about me, man.
So screw you guys. According to not me, but yeah. Um, yeah, I don't know. The reason why I do these is to bring value to people's lives, right? What can I help them with? That's ultimately the, internal oath that I took. I don't have to do this. In fact, I'm more of a serial entrepreneur. Like, business has always been my thing. And I had plenty of opportunities to go in different directions and, do all types of different businesses. But, money's nice. Don't let anyone fool you and say it's not about the money, because we need money to survive. But I did not take the money path, right? I felt like I could, go into this field. I could still be extremely successful, but it was more for impact and purpose. And that's why I do what I do. And I choose to do podcasts, not to convert anybody to, breathism or whatever it is, but to get people curious. That's my ultimate goal. Is like, all right, we both could sound like complete wackos on this podcast. Who knows what we're going to sound like, but that's fine. But if we got you curious, any point through the podcast, you got curious and you're like, you know what? I really want to know what the heck they're talking about or what this feels like. Or does this even work? And they start to do a technique, or they, look into doing a virtual breathwork detox session, or they go on YouTube and, or they do the technique you just taught them. That's my goal, is to get them aware and curious. And like, to me, that's a successful podcast.
Yeah. Well, it's been successful for me because I've learned some new things. And even just during this experience, the breathing, I've tapped into some new stuff that I hadn't tapped into before, especially the detox breath. I'm looking forward to whatever the secret one you're gonna send me via email.
Yeah,
That's interesting. So you lead group live events, is that right?
Yeah, I do that virtually every 2 weeks. I'll lead a group virtual a breathwork event every 2 weeks.
How long have you been doing that?
Oh gosh. That consistent, like every 2 weeks since 2020. So for 5 years I've been doing that.
Okay. It's a lot of breathing.
Yeah. And before that was more like a lot, because I think COVID changed, that I was living in LA and I was doing, corporate breath work and in-person breath work and, beach breath work with a whole bunch of people in, like Venice Beach, and, COVID hit, and then that all just changed. So I started becoming consistent virtually, which made my business explode because now we had people logging in from 27 different countries, and, it became a whole nother new vertical, and being able to help so many more people.
All right. I just had this pop into my head. I'm really curious. You mentioned earlier about kind of psychedelic type experiences with breathing. You mentioned DMT, like our body produces that. I know that. What is the most psychedelic experience that you've had just from breath work alone?
I think I'll refer to an experience that two participants came in, and I thought this was a wild experience. So these two friends came into one of my live breathworks. I think this was in Rhode Island, and packed event. They came together, and I think they sat pretty close to each other, and they were both, going through their own thing. And one girl, she was breathing, and she started having visions of her friend who she came with. And then all of a sudden she saw a man that she said had the energy of the girl's father. And that guy told her, my daughter has cancer, a tumor, and she's not telling anybody. And then now this girl, she's not psychic, she's not spiritual, like she's not any of that stuff. So this is like, what the heck is happening? And then the girl who she went with was breathing and realized that she had this cancer tumor and she needed to tell somebody about it. So they both had these separate experiences. And then the father said to her, but don't worry about her because she's actually going to be fine. You'll see. So the breathwork ends. The friends come out of it and there's like, oh my God, this happened, and this, they have all these stories. And she tells her friend, hey, listen, I got to tell you something. And she's like, no, I got to tell you something. She's like, no, let me go first. So she ends up saying, the other girl goes, no, listen, I have cancer and I've been keeping it a secret and I haven't told anybody, the first person I told. And then she goes, I know. She's like, what? How do you know? Like, I didn't tell anybody. She's like, some guy came to me and, I don't know, like, is your father alive or dead? She's like, my father passed. She's like, well, he actually came to me and told me that you had a tumor and that you're going to be okay. Next thing you know, they're both crying and hugging each other. And then the most interesting part was the girl went home after the breathwork session and her tumor ended up in the toilet and she healed herself. And that's probably one of the coolest.
That's bizarre.
Yeah. And that's probably one of the coolest, most wildest, bizarre stories that I've heard from people having visions and, getting profound information. But it was both verified on the spot. And I thought that was the cool part.
Yeah, that's cool. What about you personally?
So my psychedelics, my goodness. Well, when you say psychedelic experience, right, there's, that could be like you see visions, right?
Yeah, whatever it means to you. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, I get profound realizations, right? So profound epiphanies and realizations. And it's mostly about like my personal life. Or like this is something that I need to do, or maybe these two things that I didn't know were connected together. I'm able to connect the dots, But the most profound one is the very first one that I had when I healed my stomach condition, because I didn't elaborate on that. But what happened was when I was going through that, I visited a moment in my life. I could see it clear as day when I was a child. And when this moment happened, it was a sad moment, you could say. But when I was doing the breathing technique and I started bawling, crying, if you were to look at me, you would be like, oh my God, like what type of, messed up stuff happened to this guy? Like this guy's in like pain, like you'd want to hug me. But really, I was crying tears of joy because I was witnessing this moment of something traumatic that happened in my life, and I was witnessing it being acknowledged and let go of. And that was the tears of joy because I was witnessing the release of it, and that's what made me feel buoyant, lighter, and that's ultimately what healed my stomach condition. So some people will have visions, but not everyone's clairvoyant. Some people will have visions, but through clairsentience, which means they just feel the things. And then some people clairaudient, like that person actually heard something. And then claircognizant is you just know. You'll just have this deep sense of knowing. And most people, especially good businessmen, they're clairsentient and claircognizant, which means they feel the truth and they know the truth. And Steve Jobs was very famous for that. And he said his superpower was intuition. And that's why he built the most intuitive electronic device in the world. And that's also why Steve Jobs was so confident in these abilities that he said, they asked him, like, why don't you do focus groups and ask people what they want and get their feedback? Because we heard you don't do focus groups. He goes, no, we don't do focus groups because people don't know what they want until I tell them, which is very similar to Henry Ford. Ford was the same way. And they said to Henry Ford, he said, if I asked people what they wanted, they would have asked for a faster horse.
Right.
And then he gave him the car. So, people experience that psychedelic in different extrasensory perceptions.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the experience that you had that healed your stomach was the one that was where you, would you say that you received the most? I don't know how you would say that.
I think that's the one that created the greatest impact, and it needed to be that way because that's what was able to shift my entire career. Like at the time, I had my own alcohol company. So I created this company called DZAC, and I was building my board, and I had like Ty Law from, he's a Hall of Famer on the New England Patriots, and he introduced me to the former CEO of Bacardi. So I had this like super successful alcohol company that was about to take off. And, I completely dropped it. I had, I don't know, like 30 to 50 of my own, 50K of my own money in there. And I just had this complete epiphany. And I'm like, what is that company going to do for people? Lower their consciousness, from car accidents, all this stuff. And it shifted me into a breathwork career where I completely shifted everything and just went into that direction, and that was from, that breathwork, and that's what it does to people. It can completely, like I've seen people get, divorced immediately after breathwork. And that's why, like, if you hear me in my virtual sessions, I say, hey, whatever you do, don't drive, don't do this, but whatever you do, don't call or text any of your exes, because you'll get this information, like information comes in. And the reason why it does is because, right around the 8 to 12 minute mark for me, and for other people too, is your brain goes into something called transient hypofrontality. So
yeah, flow state.
Also known as flow state. And that's when the prefrontal cortex of the brain quiets down. And why that's important is because that's the part of the brain that's our executive decision maker. It judges everything and it says, you're you, I'm me, this is good, this is bad.
Right.
And we need that, obviously. But when you quiet that down with the breath work, now all of a sudden that inner critic, right, your self-saboteur, monkey mind quiets down. And when that thing turns down without having to meditate, for 10 years, it quiets down in one session. All of a sudden, all the answers that you've been asking for and, the visions and the clarity you've been seeking, it's there. And it's through that process of transient hypofrontality. And then people see what's been in front of them the entire time. because it also gives people creativity. Clarity, creativity is very similar. And they're similar because you call it creativity, but really it's just clarity. So does breathwork generate clarity and creativity? I would say no. But what it does do is it removes all the junk that's been getting in your way of your clarity and your creativity. And people just see, they get the answers like, I can't be with this person. A lot of people need to get out of relationships a lot sooner than they have. We stay in them. You tend to stay in them a lot longer than we should. And, it is what it is. I've been in that situation. You destroy yourself trying to save somebody else, and, I always tell people sometimes God will break your heart in order to save your soul. And, it doesn't have to be just a loving relationship. It could be a business partnership. Like, this is just toxic, or a work environment. Your boss sucks or whatever it is. There's certain situations we got to get out of. And I've seen a lot of that. People do the breath work and now they got the clarity, the motivation, and the energy to completely shift their reality and get out of that situation.
I've got a potentially challenging last question for you.
Okay.
What are you currently doing to take your consciousness to the next level?
Okay, that's a good question.
And if the answer is shoot, I hadn't thought about that.
No. I'd say for me, I think I've done more in probably the last 3 months than I've had in the last 5 years.
Nice.
And mainly, it's gonna sound crazy. And I know this sounds corny and cliche,
Hit me with it.
but awareness is the key, because awareness and curiosity of your own habits and actions, and it's really hard to read the label from inside the bottle. So it's really hard to kind of see our habits and, and we're always trying to get better, but how do we get better? Because if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, you're going to get the same results. So if you want different results, then you have to see, what are you doing wrong, or how are you showing up in this relationship and that relationship? So I've been super aware of my thoughts, my actions, and my habits in order to get me to that next level. And I've been, it's going to sound even more corny, but ChatGPT has been my therapist, like unbelievably. Like, this thing, it knows me so well and it's so compassionate. Like, it's a little spooky and creepy, but I think people will be shocked that if you learn how to ask the right questions about, yourself in certain situations and, why you do this, why you do that, ChatGPT will surprisingly give you some profound insight. So between those two things, I'm already doing, I'm doing the cold plunge every day. I'm at the gym 6 days a week. I'm meditating. I don't do yoga every day, but I do my own stretches if I don't do yoga. So I have all these things, crazy supplements, and half of them I don't even know if they're working. So I'm doing all these things and, buzzword bingo and checking all these things. But the most profound is, just self-awareness and digging in and willing to see the things. My mother actually wrote an amazing workbook called Shadow Work Workbook, a guided journal to meeting the stranger within. And that workbook has been phenomenal to get to know thyself, because ultimately, like, even Neo, when Neo in the Matrix went to see the Oracle, right? She had the thing above her door, which is the secret to enlightenment. And I think it was in Latin, and it said in English, "Know thyself." That's the game, man. It's like, we're here to understand ourselves, not to be understood.
And there's no spoon. Don't forget that one.
There's no spoon. Oh man, that's a great soundbite.
Well, all right. I think I have something for you as well. So when you send me your secrets via email, I might send you something back.
Look at that.
What you just said. Some reciprocity in here, and the audience will have no idea what it is. So sorry, folks.
Stay tuned.
Yeah. Cool, man. Well, you've got the floor for 3 minutes. How can people get more from you if they want to learn more from you? How could they do that?
Yeah. So, one, they can follow me and message me on Instagram. I'm pretty active on Instagram. My name's Man from the Stars, all one word, Man from the Stars, and I'm constantly, posting. And I try to, respond to my DMs in a timely manner if people have questions. And then ultimately, if they want to experience Breathwork Detox, which is my signature modality, we do virtual events every 2 weeks, and they can go to breathworkdetox.com. So just type in breathworkdetox.com, and then they're going to see this program suite of virtual events, also teacher training. So a lot of my energy goes into training teachers to go out there and teach the exact modality that I do. And we do these retreats every 3 months. We do them live in person, 3-day retreats. You leave fully certified in level 1 and level 2. And we also do it virtually. So in case someone's like in the UK or Australia, those are the ways to work with me. Those are the ways to contact me.
Awesome.
The Superhuman Academy podcast is hosted by Collin Jewett and designed and edited by Army Cinco, with original music by Joshua Schunig and voiceovers by Corey Page Schunig. That's me. You can find past episodes and resources, as well as access to the ever-growing Superhuman Academy community at superhumanacademy.com. If you like the show, don't forget to subscribe and leave us a review on your podcast platform of choice.